The sudden emergence of the Rolls Royce EJ230 upgrade has completely rattled the Pentagon, and the shockwave is especially strong because of its connection to Canada's potential Gripen deal. Behind closed doors, US defense officials did not expect a European power plant, especially an evolution of the EJ200, to suddenly push the performance envelope this far. The EJ230's projected thrust increase, efficiency improvements, and integration potential with next-gen avionics have quietly changed how NATO partners are looking at future fighter options. This is where Canada enters the story in a dramatic way. Ottawa has been stuck between the F-35 program obligations and the need for a fighter fleet that is cheaper to operate, flexible in deployment, and fast to integrate. The Gripen E was always seen as the underdog alternative, but the EJ230 shifts its image from underdog to genuine threat for American platforms. Canadian analysts are now talking about sortie rate, maintenance turnaround, and real operational readiness, not just stealth marketing. And the EJ230 fits perfectly into Sweden's doctrine. A powerful engine that performs in harsh conditions, needs minimal logistical support, and can operate from roads, remote strips, and colder environments. Canada's Arctic environment matches this almost perfectly. Inside Washington, early briefings highlighted a disturbing point. The EJ230-powered Gripen could generate faster turnaround times in dispersed operations than the F-35. Especially in sub-zero climates where the F-35's maintenance requirements increase sharply. Canada's interest in a jet that can operate easily from remote northern bases is something the Pentagon cannot ignore. The concern is not that Canada will suddenly stop partnering with the United States. It's that a major NATO air power might pick a platform the US does not control. The American defense ecosystem heavily relies on interconnected procurement cycles, tech standardization, and political influence. A Canadian Gripen fleet, powered by an upgraded European engine, represents a strategic break from that pattern. Internal reports now suggest the Pentagon is quietly lobbying Ottawa, warning that moving away from the F-35 could complicate interoperability. But the Swedish counter-argument is powerful. Modern data links, NATO standard systems, and the EJ230's energy margin allow the Gripen to integrate just as well, while staying cheaper, simpler, and more sustainable. The shock in the Pentagon is not just technical, it is strategic. The EJ230 gives the Gripen a performance boost at the exact moment Canada is re-evaluating long-term affordability and Arctic readiness. The US realizes that this could become a trend, not a one-off decision.
As Canada's evaluation deepens, the Gripen E paired with the Rolls Royce EJ230 is beginning to look far more disruptive than anyone in Washington expected. The biggest shock for the Pentagon is that this engine does not just add power, it changes the entire operational model. Norway, Denmark, the Netherlands, and even the US built their Air Force futures around. Canada, unlike these countries, does not need a fighter optimized only for high-end stealth penetration missions. It needs a fighter that can dominate the Arctic, operate in harsh weather, sustain long patrols, scramble fast for intercept missions, and do all of this without endless maintenance downtime. The EJ230 gives precisely that, by pushing thrust levels significantly beyond the already reliable EJ200, while keeping maintenance requirements low. Swedish engineers created an engine that thrives in freezing conditions, and this is causing serious concern among American defense planners because Canada's environment almost perfectly matches Sweden's. Suddenly, the Gripen E is not just a cheaper fighter, it becomes the more logical tool for Canada's unique geography. Inside Canadian defense committees, multiple reports highlight that the EJ230's higher thrust-to-weight ratio allows the Gripen to carry additional fuel or sensors without sacrificing agility. The Pentagon has been quietly trying to counter these narratives, stressing the F-35's stealth and advanced sensor fusion, but these talking points fall short when the conversation shifts to cost per flight hour and real northern readiness. Canadian air bases in the Arctic require jets that can restart engines quickly in sub-zero temperatures, launch with minimal ground equipment, and return to the sky after a rapid turnaround. The Gripen with the EJ230 offers a turnaround time as short as 10 minutes with a 5-person crew. The F-35, by contrast, often requires specialized climate-controlled maintenance infrastructure. This is fueling internal debates in Ottawa, and the Pentagon knows exactly what it means. If Canada chooses the EJ230-powered Gripen, it sets a precedent. A major NATO member openly rejecting the U.S. aircraft not because of politics, but because a European fighter is objectively better suited for its mission profile. That shift is what alarms Washington, not the loss of a sale, but the shift of influence. Moreover, early Canadian cost simulations suggest that choosing Gripen could save billions over the jet's service life. These simulations measure fuel use, engine overhaul cycles, sortie generation in cold climates, and long-distance patrols over empty northern regions. Every time the numbers are recalculated, the Gripen's advantage increases. The EJ230 has effectively turned the Gripen into a higher performance platform without losing its trademark simplicity, which is the opposite direction of modern U.S. fighters. To add to the Pentagon's concerns, Sweden is offering Canada full data rights, local maintenance capability, and sovereign upgrade control. This is something the U.S. has never offered for the F-35. Canada would no longer need American approval for software changes, weapon integration, or future modifications. In Washington, this is seen as a strategic break from decades of U.S. defense alignment. The EJ230 did not just give the Gripen a performance boost, it gave Sweden the bargaining power to offer a level of independence no American jet can match. For Canada, that independence is attractive. For the Pentagon, it is dangerous. The EJ230 has become the center of a quiet but intense pressure campaign behind the scenes. Washington is pushing hard, but Ottawa is seeing the numbers and asking questions the Pentagon has trouble answering. This shockwave is only growing stronger as more analysts publicly acknowledge that the Gripen E with the EJ230 is no longer a budget-friendly alternative. It is a serious competitor with real strategic advantages for northern nations. The most dramatic implications of the EJ230 upgrade are only now becoming clear to U.S. analysts, and this is where the Pentagon's anxiety turns into genuine strategic alarm. If Canada chooses a Gripen fleet powered by this engine, the global message will be unmistakable. American dominance in Western fighter exports is no longer guaranteed. Countries in Europe, Asia, and South America who once viewed the F-35 as the only modern option may begin reconsidering. The EJ230 gives the Gripen something incredibly valuable: superior operational readiness combined with near fifth-generation performance levels. For nations that cannot afford decades of expensive maintenance contracts tied to U.S. software locks, this is a game changer. Washington deeply understands the symbolism of a Canadian choice. Canada is not a small buyer. It is one of America's closest military partners and a founding member of NORAD. If such a core ally decides the Gripen suits its missions better, it would validate Sweden's engineering philosophy: survivability through simplicity, high uptime, and adaptability. The Pentagon fears that this would trigger a domino effect. Smaller NATO countries with limited budgets and rugged terrain, Finland, Czech Republic, Croatia, even future Eastern European buyers, may follow the same logic. The Gripen E, boosted by the EJ230, becomes the perfect demonstration of a smart fighter ecosystem, one that is affordable, modular, export-friendly, and politically unconstrained. The U.S., which has depended on the F-35 program to shape Allied air forces for the next 40 years, cannot afford such momentum to shift. Meanwhile, Canada is running mission simulations almost daily. The findings are repeatedly pointing to an uncomfortable truth for the Pentagon. The Gripen performs more consistently in the kind of missions Canada conducts most often. Long-range sovereignty patrols, quick intercepts over remote regions, joint training missions with NATO allies, and harsh weather operations all favor a reliable, easy-to-maintain aircraft with a high-thrust engine optimized for cold conditions. The EJ230's improved compressor design and thermal stability ensure fewer failures and sudden temperature drops, something extremely common in northern areas where temperatures can shift by 25 degrees in a single day. Canada quietly acknowledges that maintenance predictability in the Arctic is more valuable than stealth in scenarios where no stealth opponents are present. Another point worrying Washington is the speed of delivery. Sweden has proposed a far faster delivery and operational readiness timeline than the F-35. Gripens can be shipped, assembled locally, and flown with Canadian aircrews in a much shorter period. This matters because Canada's current CF-18 fleet is aging rapidly. The EJ230 only strengthens this argument by giving the Gripen more thrust margin for future upgrades, without redesigning the airframe. And Sweden promises unrestricted access to all future improvements. This kind of sovereignty is extremely rare in modern fighter agreements, and it challenges the American model of long-term dependency through software-controlled maintenance. In the scenario where Canada chooses the Gripen, the Pentagon faces a major reputational blow. It would represent a shift in how allied nations view the cost-benefit equation of fighter procurement. The F-35's high maintenance cost, complexity, and stealth-centric philosophy may no longer dominate the narrative. Countries may instead choose flexibility, endurance, survivability, and independence. And all of this started because the EJ230 unexpectedly elevated the Gripen from being the efficient option to becoming a legitimate challenger to U.S. air power doctrine. The shock has already begun, and the Pentagon knows that if Canada moves forward with the Gripen E, the global fighter landscape will never look the same again.